Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming along to the Causewayhead drop-in event that we're hosting as part of the Walk, Cycle, Live Stirling Develop Design consultation phase. We're going to be focusing today on looking at our design proposals and options for Causewayhead area. So just going to go over the project overview for those of you that are new to the Walk, Cycle, Live project, and just as a refresher for those, we're going to run through what is the project, what it involves, why we are looking to do this ambitious project, and the team as well. So what is Walk, Cycle, Live Stirling? As part of our ambitious plans to grow the city, we're obviously looking to transform the city into a more sustainable, vibrant and accessible place for everyone to live, work and visit. And to do that, we need to provide safe and accessible active travel modes. So that could be cycleways and improved walking facilities as well. So for the Walk, Cycle, Live project, we're going to be looking at transforming two of the key transport corridors significantly by providing safe, segregated cycle infrastructure. One of the routes is going to be connecting the train station, Stirling train station, to the University of Stirling. The route will start at the train station and continue along Goosecroft Road, along Cowan Street, up Lower Bridge Street, across Old Stirling Bridge, and then along Causewayhead route to join onto Airthry Road and then terminate at the university entrance. The second route, the Forth Valley College route, is connecting the college to the city centre, going along Drip Road and Raploch Road, down Dumbarton Road, connecting onto Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East, and then finishing at the east end of Upper Craigs. Now, it's important that this project is going to achieve making cycling easier for the people of the city and tourists as well, and making walking more accessible, improving the crossing facilities as well. So it's just a nice place for everybody to rest, play, connect with nature and learn more about the city's history. So this is a map of the routes just to get some contextual awareness of the routes. So just labelled them like we just discussed, the city centre to Forth Valley College route there, and the Stirling Station to University route. I'll just give an idea as to where the routes are joining. Why are we looking to proceed with the Walk, Cycle, Live project? Well, as part of Stirling's local development plan and the city region deal, we've set out ambitious plans for Stirling to grow in a way that gives us the best possible place for people to live and enjoy, whilst enabling walking, cycling and placemaking within the city. So we've committed to increasing the number of shorter journeys made on foot and by bike. To do that, we need to try and reduce those journeys by personal vehicles and try and encourage public transport use and people walking and cycling instead. The city is fairly accessible, so these journeys are feasible, and in doing so, this will help tackle the traffic congestion that's likely to come with an increase in population, will improve our air quality and health issues. And also we want to improve the space for people who live here as well as visitors to the city. So in doing so, by providing this better cycling network, we'll be improving economic, health and environmental benefits to the city. Some interesting research here just to show the economic benefits. A study by Living Streets, you can see up to 30% increase in retail sales by having people around on bike and foot, increased footfall outside shop fronts. People do tend to spend more than those that travel in a personal vehicle. And likewise, the National there estimated about 1.26 billion as what walking can contribute to the Scottish economy. Health benefits as well, quite significant health benefits. So Sustrans have reported a 20% reduction in absenteeism. So by promoting healthier travel options, you've got people choosing to walk and to cycle, and as such improving their health. And likewise, Scottish Government have posted that only 39% of people in Scotland achieve the recommended 30 minutes of physical activity on 5 or more days per week. So choosing to walk or cycle for these shorter journeys, 1 to 2 miles, you can be achieving that recommended 30 minutes of activity. And finally, the environmental benefits as well, air quality. So several cut the number of days, but have exceeded EU regulations on air quality from 152 to 0 in just 1 year. And that was done by investing in walking and cycling infrastructure. And Sustrans as well, another report saying that there's a potential of 25% reduction in carbon emissions from transport in 2019 to 20 with a 10% cycle mode share. So having an increase of people choosing to cycle instead of taking the car. So I'll just introduce the team. So myself, I'm Kaylee. I'm the project manager for Walk Cycle Live Stirling, and I work for Stirling Council. We've got Kevin Argue as well. He's our transport development team leader, and he's been heavily involved in this project. And we have Michaela Jackson on board as our community engagement support officer as well. So that's Stirling Council's team, and Sustrans, who we're working in partnership to deliver this project. We have Mary Davis as a project coordinator, Davina Bright as well, another project coordinator for Sustrans, and Letty Valley as well, who's helping us deliver this project. An update on where we are. We were out to consultation last year, 2020, in February, before everything went a bit kibosh. So we managed to do our concept design consultation as planned, and we got some great feedback that we've been working on the past year and updating the designs, which we're going to bring to you today and over the coming weeks. We're starting off with Causewayhead. Hopefully some of you have seen online that we've got the proposals up from today, so that will allow you to comment and view the proposals in a lot more detail. I'm going to show you through the website after this presentation as well. We're going to follow on with a drop-in event for Albert Place on Thursday, and likewise we'll have those proposals online for view and comment. And then next week on Tuesday we'll have the full route for the university route and the college route available online as well. So we're going to have some more workshops throughout March, and looking to conclude and agree with stakeholders and yourselves of what we're going to proceed with. And our ambition is to be on the ground summer 2021. So this year, sort of the end of the summer, August time ideally, we should hopefully be seeing starts on site. And it's about a 2-year construction programme, so we've got about 6.5 kilometres of cycle infrastructure and footpaths that we're looking to improve, and we hope to do this within 2 years. Just a reminder here as to how we're funding this project. We were awarded a sum of money through the City Region deal, Stirling and Clackmannanshire City Region deal, and match funded by Sustrans. So just going to move on to Causewayhead Road and discuss. Hopefully you can see the chat function for questions. You can submit a question to our team who are working behind the scenes, and there's I think there's about a delay, 60 seconds or so from when you submit the questions, but our team will be working hard and answering those, so feel free to use that as we go through. We're going to prompt some questions as well to see what you think about our proposals. Just to get a bit of context here, Causewayhead Road and Dunster Road. So we're looking at the section that connects between Old Stirling Bridge and Airthry Road. The initial concept design proposals were looking at a bi-directional cycleway the entirety of Causewayhead Road. So we're just going to review the concept designs on the next page here. So it was a bi-directional cycleway that was situated on the west side of the road. We were significantly reducing the carriageway to achieve this down to 6 metres. And we were looking at realigning the existing roundabout as well to ensure that we could have that segregation the entire length up the north and to connect on up to Airtree Road. And the idea with this as well was it would allow connections with Manor Powys, would be able to accommodate a signalised crossing at the north of Causewayhead Road. So following our concept design consultations, we spent a lot of time collating and analysing the feedback we received through various sources, through the online website that we had live at the Times Commonplace. Obviously we had our stakeholder design workshops as well, and businesses and the local residents and community councils. So some of the significant concerns were about access, including how do your waste services, how do your bins get collected, if you have a delivery, how does a delivery vehicle get access to your property. There was also concerns about the bus stops, if you're a pedestrian trying to get on and off a bus, how does that interact with the proposed cycleway. There's quite a demand for safer crossings along Causewayhead, specifically at the new co-op, Stevens the Bakers, and for access for some of the bus stops as well. There was concerns around the co-op as well about the new arrangement and the access. It's a tricky access at the moment, and there was concerns that having a bi-directional cycleway along it would just add a bit more concern for safety. There was some suggestions for how about the cycleway being on the other side of the road, or being unidirectional. There was concerns about the road width, thinking 6 metres might be too narrow. A lot of suggestions about the existing NCN along Dunster Road. It's used at the moment, so that would be seen by some as the better option. However, there were other significant concerns that they need to show connections to Manor Powys, Riverside and Cambus Kenneth as well, and to achieve that you would need to have the route going along Causewayhead. There was a lot of concerns about access to people's driveways and properties, having to cross a footway and then a cycleway, and a lot of comments on the current levels of traffic on Causewayhead, the pollution and the noise, and thinking that's probably not a pleasant place for people to cycle. And even with a segregated cycleway on Causewayhead, majority of people would still use Dunster Road. So they were all the sort of comments that we received at concept design. So in the past year, we thoroughly reviewed our options along Causewayhead. We did an options appraisal on Causewayhead, looking at the cycleway on the other side of the road. We looked at making it unidirectional, and we have also reintroduced the option of Dunster Road as an alternative. So I've just split it up here as option 1 is the bi-directional cycleway along Causewayhead Road. So that's the same as what was shown at concept design, just in a bit more developed detail. And the second option is the traffic calm route through Dunster Road. So we're looking to improve Dunster Road rather than maintaining it as existing, but we'd also like to improve Causewayhead where we can. So that could be narrowing the carriageway, but improving the footways by widening them and still putting in the zebra crossings. So as well as that as well, we've detailed out a bus stop detail just to ensure that the cyclists and pedestrians can transition at those sections, ensuring that pedestrians have priority at these points. We've ensured that we still maintain safer crossings on Causewayhead, and we just want to reiterate that there'll still be safe access and egress to driveways despite any changes to the footways on the road. We're just going to run through. I've just highlighted a couple of sections that we'll look at. Just appreciate the screen's quite small, and the wider plans are available online to look at in more detail. So we'll just look at the first proposal here, and this is Causewayhead Road as a fully segregated route for the entirety. The main difference here from the concept design is the fact that the road is 6.5 metres wide rather than 6 metres, and this needs to be maintained. And unfortunately, this has created some sections of the route which are a bit narrower, sort of pinching in the cycleway and the footway. So just continue along Causewayhead Road there, just so you can see the tie-in still works with the roundabout there. There's a proposed signalised crossing where we suggested as well. We'd like Causewayhead Road to be 20 miles per hour. I think that's our ambitions for this section of road. We could look at some additional traffic calming features. So these drawings here show speed cushions as an example. However, that's open to further discussion with yourselves and stakeholders as to how we help keep speeds down to 20 miles per hour in this section. So the second option here, like I touched on previously, was having Causewayhead Road narrowing the carriageway down to 6.5, but allowing that extra space to be dedicated to the footway. We appreciate there's a lot of residential property along this way. There's conflicts with bins being left out, and sometimes there's hedges that can narrow the footways in sections that are already quite narrow. So we think that would be quite a benefit to the street, whilst also adding traffic calming measures, narrowing the road, and making it a 20 mile per hour zone. But we'd also look to improve Dunster Road, and the changes here, we'd look at changing the junction priority at all the side streets. So currently, if you're travelling along Dunster Road to get to Airtree Road or vice versa, you'd have to give way at the junctions. However, one of the simplest changes that we can look at is changing that junction priority. So if you're a cyclist or a vehicle going that sort of north or southbound, you get priority. We'd also like to just introduce some traffic calming measures. We appreciate it's a low traffic area at the moment, but what we don't want to happen is for it to be used as a shortcut. If projections are correct and Causewayhead does have an increase in traffic, we don't want people to be using Dunster Road as an alternative. So we'd like to still make that as low traffic as possible. Just put in some typical sections here that might help visualise how the street could look. So Causewayhead Road, we would need this detail regardless of whether we go Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road. So from the bridge up to Demyat Junction, so that's the second junction. If you're going from the south north way, you would still need protected cycle lanes to that point, and this is what we'd be proposing as a segregated cycleway on the west side as existing, and that just helps with the conflict at the junction with the light signals, and it's just continuity as well with the route. And this is just a typical section of one of the traffic calming features that we could look at for Dunster Road. Although it looks like it's just one way for vehicles, this is just a give and take scenario, whereas the cyclists will always have priority by having a bypass. So that's the idea of this build out. So we're still ensuring that cyclists get priority. We'll just run through the pros and cons of both these options. Causewayhead Road does have quite a lot of pros. So importantly, it does reprioritise road space to active travel modes, and it's one of the main transport corridors. So it'll be a nice advert for getting that modal shift. You know, if it's congested on Causewayhead Road and you see cyclists zipping past in this protected cycle lane, it gives that advert for saying, well, actually, I've got a short journey here, I'm better off going on my bike. It'll also add another alternative to cycling on Dunster Road. So Dunster Road is the existing NCN, it is a quiet cycle route, and we are aware that people will still probably continue to use that regardless of the changes that we implement on Causewayhead Road. However, any sort of changes and improvements to Causewayhead Road does allow an additional route for people to walk and to cycle. It allows a more direct link to Manor Powys if you're cycling, so you would have that connection at the roundabout if your onwards travel is to Alloa or vice versa. And in doing so as well, we do have the opportunity to improve Causewayhead roundabout into a more pleasant place to walk and to cycle, improve the drainage issues that are currently present. It would also allow a direct link to the city centre for those that are living in the east of the roundabout. So it just makes connections a bit better for those, rather than assuming all the people that are going to be using the cycleway are going to the university or Bridge of Allen, we still need to ensure that there is connectivity to those going or living or travelling to the east of the roundabout. There are some cons, some that are quite significant impacting on the design, and that's the constrained space at the pinch points, which I touched on briefly. So having some sections where we're having to reduce the footway, the cycleway and the carriageway to below our sort of minimum standards, and that's in a few short sections along Causewayhead Road. And it will be a more of a challenge to deliver, considering the current traffic volumes along the road. Dunster Road, I think we're all aware that it is a pleasant place to cycle at the moment, and people find it's as pleasant as it is. There are less constraints to overcome. It's a quiet street, it's quite wide, and we think that the benefits will improve for the local residents as well. And there is less interaction with vehicles, so less driveways to negotiate. You're taking people away from the existing noise and vehicle pollution that's present on Causewayhead. However, this would leave Causewayhead without any sort of safe cycle infrastructure for those that currently do use Causewayhead or those that wish to use it in the future. So there is sections of constraint that we need to overcome regardless of whether we go Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road, and I talked about pinch points here as to where we have to narrow the cycleway, the footway and the carriageway. There's unfortunately no space available for us to take up the land on the side of the railway. That's constrained space, Network Rail's lands, which leaves us in a bit of a tight space for 30 metres up to Demyat Junction. So what you can see here are the two options in a bit more detail for this 30 metre stretch. And what we'd like to propose are two options. One is continuing the segregation detail. However, as I said before, the widths of each, the footway, the cycleway and the carriageway, would be reduced from minimum standards. So you'd have a footway that's about 1.6 metres wide, cycleway would be about 2 metres wide, that's bi-directional, and the carriageway would be down to the 6 metres. So it's that significant pinch point here that we need to overcome. The other option that we'd be proposing is a shared use path for this short stretch. So it'd be about 4 metres to 4.5, 5 metres stretch, where it would need to be classed as a shared use. So no physical segregation between pedestrians and cyclists. So I'd like to just move on to some questions, if just to prompt some discussions and see how we can take these forward. So you'll recognise, if you've been on the website so far, that these questions are also on there. The first being, which of these two routes do you think would need more improvements? And it's just trying to think of yourself as a user, but also for others that are using it. If you're a cyclist at the moment, if you're not a cyclist but you'd like to, if you'd never cycle, if you walk all the time, just try and think in different scenarios. Which of the streets do you think would need the most improvements? And that could be, reducing the speed limit like we talked about to 20 miles per hour, wider footpaths, better cycling infrastructure than there is existing, safer crossings or more crossings. Where do we need crossings? We've obviously proposed some in our plans, but is that enough? And I also mentioned cycle priority at junctions for Dunster Road, but also any junction. Is that what is needed? So that's one of the questions I'd like you to think about, and you can use the question and answer function on the Teams. Or like I said, you can go online and answer in a bit more detail as well. So another question, currently, are you more likely to use Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road if you're heading north of Stirling by foot, wheel or bike? So what do you currently do if you weren't travelling by car or by bus? And do you think what we're proposing, option 1 or option 2, Dunster Road or Causewayhead, do you think that that you would change your route if improvements were done? So if you currently use Dunster Road for cycling, but improvements were seen on Causewayhead, are you more likely to use Causewayhead instead, or vice versa? You do currently not cycle, but if you saw improvements on Dunster Road, would you? So just start to think about the different options. And would you rather see the introduction of a narrowed footway, cycling carriageway between Buchanan Drive and Demite Street, or the introduction of a shared use path? So this was the bit that I touched on just at the end there, where we've got quite a significant pinch point for about 30 metres. Do we pinch everything in and keep everything physically segregated, or do we have a short section that's what we would class as a shared use space? So thank you all for listening to that. I'm just going to finish up talking for the time being, and we can have a look at some of the questions that have been coming in. Okay, so we've got a question here saying, explain unidirectional. So the answer for unidirectional is it's the cycleway that goes in one direction in the same direction as the traffic on either side of the road, whereas bidirectional is when the cycle route is on one side of the road, but cyclists are travelling in both directions. Can you use average speed cameras to enforce 20-mile-per-hour speed limit on Causewayhead Road? So as part of these traffic calming interventions, we will look at several measures to enforce the speed limits. So that could be speed cameras, having, yeah, so that's something that we will explore. I've got a question here. What did the black squares with red dots mean on the proposals? Speed bumps. I'm just going to go back to that slide just so we can all see that one. So if I'm right in thinking it's, for example, these two squares on the carriageway here, yes, they would be speed bumps. However, that's just a proposed traffic calming option, so we can look at alternative traffic calming measures if that is following consultation. So we've just got another question in, which we will respond to, and then I'm going to start the presentation again for those that might be dropping in later, but the question and answer function will still be available. It'll just be through text. I won't be able to read them out while I'm doing the presentation, but my colleagues will be working behind the scenes to answer those as they come in. So I'll wait a couple more minutes and I'll start the presentation again. So as a bus user, I'm not sure about speed humps on Causewayhead Road. So we are consulting with the public transport team and the bus operators around the use of speed humps throughout the project and obviously on this road as well. So it's just one of the possibilities of traffic calming measures along this stretch to help maintain speeds down to 20 miles per hour. We are aware that it is, even as a bus operator, it's the avoidance of speed humps is preferable, as well as for those that are the bus users. We've got a comment here as well, which I'll read out. If I'm travelling to the university or Wallace High, I'm more likely to use Dunst Road. If I'm going to the Co-op, Stevenson's Bakers, or friends who live on Causeway Road, the Wallace Monument, Corrieres Cafe, Recycle Bike, or Alwa, I'm more likely to stay on Causewayhead Road. So there are quite a lot of destinations for those that use Causewayhead Road. Okay, I'm just going to leave my team to keep answering the questions as they come in, and I'll just start the presentation again for those new attendees. So thank you for anyone who's popped in to the drop-in event just now. Just run through the presentation once, so I'll just be redoing that from the start again for those that are just joining us. And there is a question and answer facility. You can be typing your questions to the team who will answer your concerns and suggestions. So this topic today is focusing on Causewayhead Road. However, we'll just start with a design overview of the Walk Cycle Live project and where we are. We'll touch on what is the project, why we're proceeding with the Walk Cycle Live project, and meeting the team. So Walk Cycle Live Stirling is a project targeted to transform the city of Stirling into a more sustainable, vibrant and accessible place for everyone to live, work and visit. So it's important to provide active travel modes for people for doing those shorter journeys. So rather than taking your car for a couple miles journey, we need to provide safe and affordable active modes of transport. So cycling, walking and public transport. So for those that live there, work and tourists as well. And the Walk Cycle Live project is looking to transform two of our key transport corridors, namely we call one the University of Stirling route, so that's connecting the University of Stirling to Stirling train station, and the other is the Forth Valley College route, so connecting Forth Valley College to the city centre. It terminates at Upper Craigs. And this will allow walking and cycling easier for people to get around in the city centre and to connect to these the transport hubs and education centres. So we want to create spaces for people that are pleasant to rest, to play, connect with nature, learn more about the city's history as well. So it's improving health benefits, economic benefits as well. This is a map of the two routes for some contextual awareness, and we've just highlighted there the city centre to Forth Valley College route. So you can see it runs along Drip Road and down Raploch Road, past the King's Knot and along Dumbarton Road, and then onto Albert Place, so past the Smith Art Gallery, the Albert Halls, and then down to the city centre. So it goes up to the east end of Upper Craigs. And the Stirling Station to University route connects the Stirling train station along Goosecroft Road, continues along Cowan Street, so past the Cowan Centre, and across Old Stirling Bridge. Goes along Causewayhead Road, which we'll be talking about, and possibly Dunster Road, and then on up to Airthry Road, where it terminates just at the roundabout at the University of Stirling. So why walk, cycle, live at Stirling? So Stirling's local development plan and the State Region deal set out ambitious plans for Stirling to grow in a way that gives us the best possible place for people to live and enjoy, whilst enabling walking and cycling and placemaking within the city. And we have committed to increasing the number of shorter journeys made on foot and by bike. And by doing so, this will help us tackle the projected traffic congestion. You know, with population growth comes increased traffic. We want to improve our air quality and health issues, as well as improving the public realm and the urban experience. So by having a better cycling network infrastructure, it brings additional economic, health and environmental benefits to the city. So it's a benefit for the residents, the businesses and for the tourists as well. We've got a paper by Living Streets, which say up to about 30% increase in retail sales thanks to walking and cycling. So an increase in footfall comes increase in spends. And I suppose you think about it yourself when you visit a new town or a city anywhere, when you're out walking about, you do have that tendency to window shop more, go into places, go for a coffee. But you do so in a place that's attractive and it makes you want to do that. And that's what we want for Stirling. Another paper, The National, estimates about 1.26 billion is the value of walking tourism that brings to the Scottish economy. You can see significant health benefits as well. Having people walking and cycling more, you can see a reduction in absenteeism to about 20%. So by providing alternative travel options, by people walking and cycling, you will see that health benefit. And unfortunately, only 39% of people in Scotland achieve the recommended 30 minutes of physical activity on 5 or more days per week. But if you introduce a walk to school, to work, to the city centre for your shopping, or a cycle, that will contribute to that recommended 30 minutes of physical activity. And finally, the environmental benefits. So we all realise where we are at the moment, the climate emergency, and you know, providing active travel modes, reducing cars on the road will have these significant impacts. So you can see 25% of potential reduction in carbon emissions from transport with a 10% cycle mode share. So having more people on bike and less in cars, you're going to see a huge reduction in carbon emissions. And there's also improvements been reported in air quality by investing just in 1 year for walking and cycling infrastructure. Just a wee introduction to the team for those that haven't met us yet. I'm Kaylee, so I'm the project lead for the Walk Cycle of Stirling, and Kevin Argue is our transport development team leader. We've got Michaela Jackson on board as well as our community engagement officer. And as working in partnership with Sustrans, we have Mary Davis and Davina Bright as project coordinators, and Letty Valley as well as an infrastructure officer helping deliver this project. It's been about a year, unfortunately, since we last consulted for the concept designs in February 2020. So just before lockdown, but we managed to complete everything. And the past year we have been analysing and collating all that feedback, and as such been updating our designs, which we're bringing to you now. So this is the first launch of the website for the Causewayhead and the first public drop-in we're doing. We'll follow on with Albert Place this week, and then next week will be the full, both routes, all the design proposals will be online, and we'll have an event similar to this where you can come along and ask questions. So following this consultation throughout February and March, we'd be looking to update the plans again, just to more what we call detailed designs, so technical designs ready for construction in the summertime. So we're looking at probably August, September this year. And it's about a 2-year construction programme that we're estimating, 6.5 kilometres worth of cycle and walking infrastructure. We hope to achieve that within 2 years of starting on site. We were awarded funding from the Stirling and Clackmannanshire City Region deal to deliver this project as part of the City Region deal active travel programme, and Sustrans have contributed match for this to allow this project to progress. So I'm just going to go on to Causewayhead Road now and our proposals. of, like I said previously, you can use the question and answer function. We've got a team behind that will be answering those as we go. So we'll just put a map here just for some contextual awareness of where this section is situated. So this is the link between Old Stirling Bridge and the Wallace Monument. The concept design proposals in February 2020 showed a bidirectional cycleway that ran the entirety from Old Stirling Bridge up to Causewayhead roundabout. What we're looking at today is an alternative option of using Dunster Road as the existing quiet route and improving that. The concept designs in 2020, as we touched on, February last year, we were looking at a bidirectional cycleway to the west side of the road, but for us to achieve this, we needed the carriageway to be down to 6 metres for the entire length and some additional land on the east side, which currently is Network Rail's land that runs alongside the railway. And the roundabout, we were looking at redesigning the layout here just to allow this segregated cycleway to be able to go all the way up the north and continue along to Airtree Road here. During the consultation, we had quite a significant amount of feedback, which was fantastic. There was concerns about parking in cycle lanes, concerns about waste and delivery vehicles and how they would access properties, and concerns that they cause additional congestion. There was a demand for more crossings, specifically at the bakery and the co-op. There was suggestions that Dunster Road would be a better route as it's an existing quiet route anyway, and some suggestions of using the other side of the cycleway. So following the concept design consultation, we have explored various options as to how we provide safe active travel infrastructure along this route to connect us up to Airtree Road. The first option is the same concept as the previous, so it's a bidirectional cycleway along Causewayhead Road on the west side. However, we have now widened the carriageway to 6.5 metres, which is our absolute minimum for a long stretch such as this road. The second option is looking at improving the cycle infrastructure on Dunster Road, and this would just be adding traffic calming measures to the route through Dunster Road, whilst also looking at improving Causewayhead Road by widening the footpaths. There's some areas that are quite narrow. You've got a lot of bins and hedges possibly that pinch the footway down. So we'll be looking at that as an opportunity if we do choose to go Dunster Road. I would also like to introduce 2 safer crossings, so we have included that in both our options. We've detailed out a model for how the bus stops would work with a segregated cycleway to ensure that pedestrians always have priority at these crossing points. And just emphasising again that there will always be safe access to driveways in both designs, whether it's changes to the footway or the carriageway. So our proposals for option 1 along Causewayhead Road is still a bidirectional that runs along the west side, and as I touched on previously, the carriageway is 6.5 metres, so it's wider by 0.5 metre than it was in our concept design proposals. This and the restriction of the Network Rail land along the railway line has sort of created a few more pinch points and narrowing than the previous proposals. We'd like to have Causewayhead as a 20 mph zone. We could look at some traffic calming measures to help enforce this as well. We're exploring the options of speed humps, possibly other enforcement measures could be explored as well. The benefit of having Causewayhead like this as well is that improvements to the roundabout and the smooth transition along up to Airtree Road. The option 2 that we discussed just previously there is widening of the footpaths on Causewayhead Road, would allow a lot of space to be reallocated from the carriageway. So we would still be proposing to reduce the carriageway down to 6.5 metres in comparison to what currently is at, but give that space to the footway just north of Demite Junction. And this will improve walking facilities along this busy stretch of road. We appreciate it's quite busy for the use of the bakery and the co-op as well. But you see as well, we've still introduced some safer crossings there. Dunster Road would be improved by changing the priority at the junctions to allow cyclists the priority through north. If you go northbound or southbound, you don't have to give way at the junctions anymore. And we're also looking to introduce some traffic calming measures that would allow cyclists priority through these cycle bypasses. However, just having the cars on a give and take scenario. So we'll just go into a bit more detail with the sections that help clarify that. So this is a 3D section of Causewayhead Road with a bidirectional cycleway, and bidirectional is two cyclists that go essentially mimicking what the carriageway is. You've got your two lanes going in either direction there. So the cyclists would be sharing this space rather than having one lane like it currently is going in one direction. And it's segregated, so you've got about half a metre strip there between the cyclists and the carriageway. This is the option for Dunster Road. It's an idea of how we could introduce traffic calming measures along Dunster Road. So this is just a detail where we've got a build out. You can add some additional planting. And vehicles there would only have that one lane to sort of get through these build out sections, so it'd be a give take scenario, whereas cyclists will still be able to bypass this, so they still get the priority. Just run through the pros and cons of both these options. Causewayhead Road, by reprioritising the road space, you give more space to active travel on one of the main transport corridors, and it's a significant advert for promoting active travel. It will allow an alternative safe route to just using Dunster Road, providing safe segregated infrastructure to connect onwards to Alloa Road, or also if you're using any of the services or visiting any of the residential properties, the B&Bs, upwards to Wallace, the Wallace Monument as well. It would allow us to transform Causewayhead Roundabout into something that's a bit more pleasant place to walk and cycle, whilst also looking at improving the drainage issues that are currently there. And we'll be providing a direct link to the city centre for the people who live on the east of the roundabout. I have touched on though the cons of this option, and it's the constrained space at some of the pinch points, which do significantly reduce down the widths of the footway, the cycleway and the carriageway to below minimum standards, and we'll touch on that in a bit more detail later. And it's more of a challenge to deliver this project along Causewayhead Road. Dunster Road is a more pleasant route to travel. Currently it's a quiet route, it's the existing NCN. There are less constraints to overcome, and it is a more desirable route currently because there is less interaction with vehicles, less conflict with driveways and vehicle and noise pollution as well. However, this would leave Causewayhead without any safe cycle infrastructure for those that do need to use Causewayhead Road. So we're just going to go on to the section I talked about the constraints here. So this is the section that we're going to need to detail out regardless of whether we go Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road. And this is a section just south of Demite Junction, where we have quite a significant pinch point for a 30-metre stretch. We could look at the two options here again and see what would be preferable to users. We're suggesting you could maintain it as segregated. However, you would be reducing down the widths to below minimum standards. And an example is the footway is going to be 1.6 metres wide. The cycleway would be 2 metres wide, and that's for a bi-directional cycleway. And the carriageway would be at its absolute minimum at 6 metres here as well. So you're just sort of pushing everyone a bit too close together. However, you're still providing physical segregation. The other option that we'd like to explore is just having this short section as a shared use area. So there would be no physical segregation between pedestrians and cyclists for this stretch. We're just going to move on to some prompting questions. I appreciate there'll be many of you using the question and answer facility just now with your own questions, which is great, but just some other thoughts here for you to think about, and these questions will also be on the website as well. So which of the two routes do you think needs more improvement? So do you think Dunster Road needs more improvement, or do you think Causewayhead needs more improvement? And if so, what would you like to see? Could we reduce the speed limit? Can we widen the footpaths? Do we provide better cycling infrastructure, which is what we're aiming to do? Do we need safer crossings? Do we need more crossings, more than what we're proposing? And changing priority at junctions to ensure that cyclists have the priority. And currently, are you more likely to use Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road if you're heading north of Stirling by foot, wheel or bike? And do you think that will change if improvements were done? So if you currently don't cycle on Causewayhead Road or you use Dunster Road instead, do you think if we put in these proposed changes, would you more likely to use Causewayhead Road, and vice versa? If you don't cycle at all and would like to cycle, do you think improvements on Dunster Road would allow you to feel more confident about cycling, or same with Causewayhead Road? And finally, the pinch point that we just touched on at the end there, what would you rather see? The introduction of a narrowed footway, cycleway and carriageway between Buchanan Drive and Demyat Street, so that 30-metre section where everything's getting pinched in, or this short section to be a shared use path. What are your thoughts on those? So just going to see how my colleagues are doing with the question and answers and read some out. So will you still be able to get to the bus stops? We would look to provide drop curbs and zebra crossings to the bus stops. Tactile paving will also be put in for visually impaired users. And of course, cyclists will need to give way to pedestrians getting on and off buses. And we'll be providing what we'll call pedestrian islands for getting on and off the buses. So it'll be about a metre wide island that will be situated between the carriageway and the footway. It'll be the same level, it'll be a level crossing for pedestrians, and it will be a safe waiting platform to ensure that they're not walking straight out onto the cycleway. So there's a comment here saying that traffic calming in other nearby streets that doesn't work. What makes you think this will? People speed regardless. And we would like to know where. If you could provide us more detail, that would be great, so we can ensure that we can correct those design errors, or perhaps even improve those areas that are struggling. We would like to ensure that the measures we do introduce would make it very difficult for vehicles to speed. So that was like those proposals of narrowing the carriageway by putting in these build outs and ensuring that the cyclists have the bypass. So have you considered prohibiting HGVs and tractors from using Causewayhead Road and instead using the Ring Road? I think this is an interesting suggestion, but we wouldn't be able to confirm whether it would be possible just now, but we will look into that and see what that could involve. We've got another point here. It's not specific to your presentation, however, I was asked by Stirling Council to bring it up at this meeting. I have issues with the bus stop outside my house and would like to inquire about it being moved. Would also like to see the ways drive opens onto Causewayhead Road. I see it from the plans. This would now be difficult. It's quite specific, so how can I speak to someone about this? So we just provided an email address there, so it'd be great to have a bit more information. If you can just get in touch, that'd be great. Another one here, I think most people are more likely to take the direct route on Causewayhead Road. I have also witnessed many times, mainly when school closes, children rejoining Causewayhead Road from Buchanan Drive and cycling wrong way down the cycle path. And the path of oncoming traffic. It's very dangerous and likely to continue if not bi-directional Causewayhead Road. So thank you for that feedback. Traffic calming on Demite Road, in particular, Demite Road, Chatton Avenue is like a racetrack most days. So it's very useful feedback, thank you. And we have been investigating carriageway narrowing and we'll now have a look to see if there's more that we can do in that location. Well, you need to do basic road safety with their cyclists of promoting the use of cycling in the area. The number that cycle in winter without lights is incredible. Danger to themselves and any poor sod that doesn't see them. We are working with the university at the moment to gain feedback on the designs. So we would look to have workshops in the future on behaviour change to tackle those barriers to active travel for students and encouraging safe travel. And that would be the case for all of these education centres. We obviously want to promote that. It's education for everybody, not just the cyclists. Have you considered the impact of the changes at peak times, for example, 8:45 in the morning when the road is busy for people going to work and dropping kids off at school? Clearly COVID has changed this and it's quieter just now, but I imagine when things go back to normal, this will just be busy again. So we have completed quite a lot of traffic modelling in this area to ensure that all roads for the project ensure that it still works within capacity, specifically on Causewayhead, and we are still providing the 2 lanes of traffic. It is obviously the case where traffic will likely to be worse at peak times regardless, as it is throughout the city and everywhere else in the country. However, we're hoping that having more people travelling actively will help traffic congestion now and for in the future. Great. So it's 5 o'clock now, so I'm just going to restart the presentation in a couple of minutes for those that will drop in at this time. But please, if you're still present, keep asking questions if you like, or go online to our website. You'll be able to see all the proposals in detail and again answer those questions and provide us more feedback. Okay, everyone, thank you if you have just joined us. We're just going to go through the presentation again for those that are just dropping in now. We're going to talk about Causewayhead in particular for this project, but we're going to start off with the project overview of Walk Cycle Live Stirling and where we are in the project. So for those that are new to Walk Cycle Live Stirling or don't know much about it, but also as a refresher, we'll just briefly talk about what the project is, why we are doing this project, and get to meet the team as well. So what is Walk Cycle Live Stirling? It's a project targeted to transform the city of Stirling into a more sustainable, vibrant and accessible place for everyone to live, work and visit. And for us to do that, we need to provide safe and accessible active travel transport. So cycle lanes, improving public transport and ensuring that we have safe walking destinations, improving footpaths and crossings for all. And to do this, we are transforming two of our key transport corridors in Stirling City. We're going to be improving the Stirling University to the train station route. So that's going along Cowan Street, Lower Bridge Street and across Old Stirling Bridge, along Causewayhead and then connecting at Airthrough Road and terminating at the University of Stirling roundabout. And the second route is the Forth Valley College route, so it's commencing at Forth Valley College on Drip Road and will continue south along Raploch Road, connecting onto Dumbarton Road and then along Albert Place, so going past the Albert Halls and terminating in the city at Upper Craigs. So this will allow walking and cycling to be easier for those that want to travel within the city to get to these key education centres, to get to the city centre for the shops, to visit the local businesses there and to improve active travel modes for those visiting the city. For contextual awareness, we've got the two routes here on this map. We've got the Stirling Station to University route, as we've pointed out there, so it's up at the university down to the city centre at the Stirling train station and bus station, and the Forth Valley College route, again past the King's Knot, Smith Art Gallery and Albert Halls, terminating at the town centre at Upper Craigs. So why are we doing this project? So Stirling's local development plan and the City Region deal have set out ambitious plans for Stirling to grow in a way that gives us the best possible place for people to live and enjoy, whilst enabling walking and cycling and placemaking within the city. We have committed to increasing the number of shorter journeys made on foot and by bike. With increased population growth with our local development plan, we need to tackle traffic congestion, which will come with it. We also want to improve our air quality and health issues, whilst also improving the public realm and the urban experience for all. So by providing a better cycling and network infrastructure, we may bring additional economic, health and environmental benefits to the city. Some economic benefits that we can see, there's a report by Living Streets which suggests 30% increase in retail sales thanks to walking and cycling, and I think we can all appreciate that when you put yourself in context of visiting a new city or a town, and you're out and about, you want to walk out and about in a place that feels attractive, it's a pleasant place to be, and you are more likely to pop in and spend some money on a coffee or a cake in those areas. And a national report at 1.26 billion is the value of walking tourism that provides the Scottish economy. We can also see quite significant health benefits by providing active travel infrastructure. Up to 20% reduction in absenteeism can be seen. That's a report by Sustrans. And unfortunately, only 39% of people in Scotland achieve the recommended 30 minutes of physical activity on 5 or more days per week. But by providing safe active travel transport or encouraging people to walk and cycle for shorter journeys, you can easily incorporate that into your daily trips. So just a trip down to the shops or to school, to work, by walking and cycling, you can then achieve those targets. And of course, significant environmental benefits will come with this as well. And we need to tackle the climate emergency together. And this is one significant way that we can do that. Sustrans reports suggest 25% of potential reduction in carbon emissions from transport with a 10% cycle mode share. So more people cycling, more people walking, you get obviously less cars on the road and a significant reduction in carbon emissions. Just a wee introduction to the team. I'm Kaylee, so I'm the project manager for Walk Cycle Live Stirling, and we've got Kevin Argy, who's our transport development team leader for the project. Michaela Jackson as well as our community engagement officer, and we've got the Sustrans team with us as well. We've got Mary Davis and Davina Bright as project coordinators, and we have Letty Valley as well helping us deliver this project. Just an update on where we are with the project. A lot of you have been involved in the previous consultation events that we've had to date, the last being February 2020 with the concept design consultations. So since then we've spent the past year analysing all the feedback that we received for the two routes, and we have updated our designs, which we are bringing to you now. So we're starting off with Causewayhead, and then we'll be hosting other events for other sections of the route online. They'll be available to view and to comment on our website as well, and we'll have both of the routes available for next week. We're going to spend February and March with these consultation events, and then update the designs to provide more technical and construction details to allow us then to hit the ground in the summer. So we're thinking, you know, August, September this year. We'll start on site on the two routes, and we anticipate a 2-year construction programme. We were awarded funding from Stirling Clackmannanshire City Region deal, and we have been supported by Sustrans, who are match funding this project. I'm just going to talk through where we are with the Causewayhead design proposals. For those of you who have just joined in, you can use your question and answer function on Microsoft Teams, and we've got a team working behind the scenes that will be answering those questions. Following this presentation, I will then run through some of those questions out loud. Okay, so Causewayhead. And just to get some awareness of the section that we are talking about here, we are looking at the section that starts from Old Stirling Bridge up to Airtree Road. So this is Causewayhead, and our concept design proposals, we're looking at providing segregated infrastructure along the entirety of Causewayhead. However, for this stage of consultation, we have looked at providing an alternative option, which includes Dunster Road as well. So back in February, we did come out to consultation with our design proposals for this segregated cycle infrastructure, a bidirectional cycleway. So it's two-way cycleway that ran the entire length of the west side of Causewayhead Road. For us to achieve this, we needed the carriageway to be down at 6 metres wide, and we needed to take some additional land that was on the east side. We're also looking at doing changes to the roundabout, realigning it to ensure that the cycleway could fit up the north end and connect onto Airtree Road. And we're looking at connections on how it ties in with the Manor Powys project. So throughout the concept design process, we got quite a significant amount of feedback for Causewayhead proposals, concerns about waste services and delivery vehicles, causing congestion if they can't access properties. There was concerns about cars parking and cycling like they do at the moment, and accessing driveways. There's some comments that suggested that Causewayhead is very polluted. It's quite busy, it's not attractive, so there's thought that most people would still continue to use Dunster Road regardless. There are suggestions that we could look at using the alternative side of the road for the cycleway. And again, other people suggesting that Dunster Road would be the better route. So from that, we did go away and we revisited the plans. We did a detailed options appraisal on Causewayhead Road, looking at how we could do the cycleway on the other side, whether we do unidirectional, so that's just where it's one cycleway on either side of the road, like it is currently just at the south of Causewayhead Road. And our second option is to improve Dunster Road, which is the existing NCN. So rather than taking a segregated cycleway up the entirety of Causewayhead, we'd be looking at improving Dunster Road, reducing the traffic along there, but also looking at improving Causewayhead for the footways. We could widen those, we could still put in safer crossings. We've detailed out how the bus stops would interface with the segregated cycleway, and it's an interface that would need to be detailed for the whole project as well. There are various sections where the cycleway runs past bus stops. We have proposed 2 safer crossings on Causewayhead Road as well, as was suggested throughout the concept design consultation. We're just going to have a look at what we are proposing for Causewayhead Road, and just highlighted 2 of the sections just for the purpose of this presentation. The whole length of the route is available online for you to view in more detail. You can download the PDFs and you can then provide us feedback online. So this route is still maintaining the segregated bidirectional cycleway on the entirety of Causewayhead Road and on the west side. We did look at exploring on the other side of the road. There was quite a lot of conflict there, specifically at the crossing points, and poor continuity with the rest of the route. And therefore the options appraisal did show that having it on the west side was the most beneficial. However, the change for this design is having the carriageway at 6.5 metres rather than the proposed 6 metres at the concept design. And there is no ability for us to take any of the land that's currently owned by Network Rail that runs along the railway. So unfortunately, that does provide us some compromises and some constraints on the proposals for the segregated cycleway, in some sections being quite narrow and below our minimum standards, which we will come on to in a bit more detail later. We would like Causewayhead Road to be a 20-mile-per-hour zone. We could look at introducing some traffic calming measures as well, such as speed bumps to help with that. We are still exploring those, so we would like to get your feedback on our proposals for that. And just continuing up here with the cycleway, that does tie in with the roundabout, but the proposals that the roundabout is staying as it currently is aligned. The second option, as we've previously touched on, was the widening of footpaths for Causewayhead Road. So we're able to narrow the carriageway down to the minimum of 6.5 metres, but reallocating the space for the footpaths along here. So improving it for those that are actually walking along this route. We're still providing the safe crossings at these key points that were suggested at the consultation events. However, the difference for this is we're improving Dunster Road as the cycle route here. So we're changing the junction priorities. At the moment, cyclists travelling north or east along Dunster Road have to wait at each junction. However, a simple fix for that is just to change that junction priority there. We'd like to provide some traffic calm measures, such as build outs that would make the carriageway down to 1 lane at these short sections, making vehicles do a sort of give and take scenario, whilst providing a cycle bypass, so cyclists still get priority through these. And it allows us the opportunity to add some additional greenery and improve the space for the residents as well. Just typical cross sections here of how the street would look. This is how a bidirectional segregated cycleway would look on Causewayhead Road, and this would need to be part of the design regardless of whether we go Causewayhead or Dunster Road. There is a section from Old Stirling Bridge up to Demyat Junction that will still need to provide protected cycling. And this just gives you an idea of what it looks like and what a bidirectional cycleway is. So you can see the cyclist travelling in opposite directions, so it just mirrors the carriageway detail there. A typical section for Dunster Road is, like I touched on, was with these build outs here. So the street will remain pretty much the same as it is. However, we just provide in some locations these build outs, which just helps with traffic calming and ensuring that speeds remain low. You know, we want to avoid Dunster Road being people using that as a shortcut to avoid any sort of congestion on Causewayhead. So still need to ensure that it's a pleasant place for the residents, but also a safe cycle route. There are various pros and cons for both the options. So we'll just run through Causewayhead Road first. By having a segregated cycleway along Causewayhead Road, we are reprioritising the road space to active travel modes along a main transport corridor, and it's quite a visible route as well, and providing a strong advert for that modal shift to try and encourage people to choose their bike for these shorter journeys. It will add an additional route to Dunster Road, so for those that are travelling along Causewayhead regardless, you know, they've got other destinations such as the Wallace Monument, Alloa Road, any of the shops and services along Causewayhead Road, you will have that as a safe alternative cycle infrastructure. And we do have the opportunity to improve Causewayhead roundabouts, specifically the drainage issues as well, and just make it a more pleasant place for people to walk and cycle. Causewayhead Road as a segregated cycle lane, the entirety would also provide a direct link to the city centre for those that live to the east of the roundabout. However, as we touched on previously, there are significant constrained space at these pinch points, which we will go into a bit more detail on how we can detail that out. And it is a bit more of a challenge to deliver this project on this main transport corridor. Dunster Road, however, is a more pleasant route to travel. It's a quiet route, it's the existing NCN. There are much less constraints to overcome, and also less interaction with vehicles, less interaction with driveways, and vehicle and noise pollution. However, we will be leaving behind Causeway Road and not providing safe cycle infrastructure along one of those main transport corridors. So I talked about pinch points that we need to overcome, regardless of whether it's Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road, and this pinch point is just south of Demayet Road, and that is a 30-metre stretch that we're really constrained with space. We're sort of tied in. We're unable to attain any more land due to the railway constraints. So for this short section, 30 metres long, we are having to pinch in things. So the footway will be 1.6 metres. The cycleway will be down, a bidirectional cycleway will be down to 2 metres wide, and the carriageway down to 6 metres. So just to put things in a bit more context, the carriageway minimum is 6.5. The cycleway absolute minimum would normally be looking at is about 2.5, 3 metres, and the footway would be 1.82 metres ideally. So we are, every section along there is being compromised. The alternative that we are looking to explore with yourselves is having this section as a shared use. So it'll be about 4.1 metres at the tightest section of what we have to class as shared use, where there's no physical segregation between pedestrians and cyclists along this stretch. We'll just move on to the questions. Obviously you are able to ask any questions through the chat function as well, through Microsoft Teams, as well as online or email us. However, I've just got some questions that I'd like to prompt you and just to get your feedback on. So when considering Dunster Road and Causewayhead Road, which of the two routes do you think needs more improvements? So if so, what do you think we could do to improve these streets? What would you like to see? Could we reduce the speed limit? Could we look at widening the footpaths? Do we need better cycle infrastructure? Do we need safer crossings, and where do we need them? Do we need more of what we're proposing? And cycle priority at the side street junctions. Currently, are you more likely to use Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road if you're heading north of Stirling by foot, wheel or bike? If we do these changes that we're proposing of option 1 or option 2, do you think that will change? So if you currently don't cycle on Causewayhead Road and you choose Dunster Road, for whatever reason, if we put in these proposals that we're suggesting, would that change? Are you going to use Causewayhead Road instead of Dunster, and vice versa? If you don't cycle at all, would you be more encouraged to cycle if we had changes along Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road? And finally, this just touches on the last section we spoke about there about the pinch points. Would you rather see the introduction of a narrowed footway, cycleway and carriageway between Buchanan Drive and Demite Street, or the introduction of a shared use path for this short section where it's 30 metres and we're really constrained with space? What would you rather? What would you feel more safe? Okay, I'm just going to have a look and see if we have any more questions we can read out the team have been working on. Do you plan to have Causewayhead Road at 20 miles per hour with whatever option goes ahead? And yes, we'd just like to confirm that we would, if there is support to do so. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. If you've managed to just pop along to the Causewayhead drop-in event. We're just going to start with an overview on the project, the Walk Cycle Live Stirling project. For those that are new, or just a wee refresher from our last consultation event last year. I'm going to touch on what the project is, what is Walk Cycle Live Stirling, why we are doing this project, and then we'll just finish on the project team. We'll then move on to the Causewayhead proposals. So what is Walk Cycle Live Stirling? It is a project targeted to transform the city of Stirling into a more sustainable, vibrant and accessible place for everyone to live, work and visit. And for us to achieve that, we need to ensure that we are providing safe and affordable active travel corridors for everybody, for those that are in and around the area. So for those that are tourists, as well as those the residents and those that work in Stirling. The Walk Cycle Live Stirling project will be transforming 2 key transport corridors within Stirling City, and this will make it easier for people to walk and cycle within the city centre. We will be creating spaces for people to rest, play, connect with nature and learn more about the city's rich history as well. For some contextual background as to where the routes are, we have put them on this map, and we've called the 2 routes the Stirling Station to University route and the City Centre to the Forth Valley College route. Now, the Stirling Station to University route starts in the city centre at the train station. It goes along Goosecroft Road and Cowan Street, so past the Cowan Centre, continues along Lower Bridge Street and across Old Stirling Bridge, and then continues northwards through Causewayhead, and then connects on Airthrew Road and onwards past Wallace High School and terminates at the University of Stirling roundabout entrance. And the city centre to Forth Valley College route, we go along from the city centre Upper Craigs, along Albert Place, past Albert Halls and Smith Art Gallery, past the King's Knot on Dumbarton Road, and then continues north along Raploch Road and terminates outside the Forth Valley College on Drip Road. So why are we doing the Walk Cycle Live Stirling project? Well, Stirling's local development plan and the City Region Deal set out ambitious plans for Stirling to grow in a way that gives us the best possible place for people to live and enjoy, whilst enabling walking and cycling and placemaking within the city. And we have committed to increasing the number of shorter journeys made by foot and bike. We need to help tackle the traffic congestion that comes with an increase in population that's set out in our local development plan, and as such we also need to look at improving our air quality and health issues. And we want to improve the public realm and the urban experience for everyone as well. So a better cycling and network infrastructure will bring additional economic, health and environmental benefits to Stirling City. So we can see some of the economic benefits that have been set out by Living Streets suggest that 30% increase in retail sales thanks to walking and cycling, and you know, a more pleasant place, a nicer street, a nicer city. You are more likely to want to spend time there, and as such pop in for a coffee or a cake or meet your friends in these locations. The National also say that there's 1.26 billion is the value walking tourism provides to the Scottish economy. There's significant health benefits as well that come with providing safe, active travel. We can see about 20% reduction in absenteeism as we provide and promote healthier travel options. And unfortunately, only 39% of people in Scotland do achieve the recommended 30 minutes of physical activity on 5 or more days per week. However, just a slight change into your routine by taking a walk or a cycle to your destination, to work, to school or to the town, you can easily fit that into your daily life. However, to do that you do need safe and attractive walking and cycling facilities to enable that. We also need to be very aware of our environmental benefits as well, and we do see some significant benefits as part of active travel. So helping to tackle the climate emergency, having people walking and cycling will reduce carbon emissions. So Sustrans suggest up to 25% can be seen with just a 10% cycle mode share. And we can also see quite an improvement in our air quality. So just as seen there, in 1 year of investing in walking and cycling can have a massive improvement. I'm just going to quickly introduce the team behind the scenes. So I'm Kaylee, I'm the project manager for Walk Cycle Live Stirling on behalf of Stirling Council, and we also have Kevin Argue, who's our transport development team leader. We've got Michaela Jackson as well, she's involved with this project and many others, and she's our community engagement officer. And Sustrans team who's working alongside us, we have Mary Davis and Davina Bright, who are our project coordinators, and we have Letty Valley as well, who's our infrastructure officer helping deliver this project. Just an overview as to where we are in this project. So last year in February 2020, we spent a bit of time on the concept design consultation, and we have spent the past year reviewing, collating and analysing all that feedback, and we have now produced some developed designs which we are bringing to yourselves, and will continue to do so over the next few weeks and into March. For Causewayhead and also for the rest of the route. So we've got about 6.5 kilometres worth of cycle infrastructure. So we'll be looking to get those agreed and then developed into technical and construction detail designs, which will then allow us to progress with construction in the summer. So we could be anticipating August and September this year. And with a 2-year construction programme, we'd like to have the project finished in spring 2023. Just a quick note here on the funding of the project. So Stirling Council were awarded funding through the Stirling and Clackmannanshire City Region deal as part of the active travel programme, and Sustrans are match funding this project. So I'm just going to move on to the Causewayhead proposals for active travel. And I'd just like to point out for those that have just joined in that there is a question and answer facility within Microsoft Teams. So you can submit questions to the team and they'll be working behind the scenes to answer those questions. And I will then read them out at the end. Okay, so Causewayhead Road. Just to get the map open here, so for some awareness as to where this section is and in relation to the rest of Stirling City. So we're looking specifically at the section that connects Old Stirling Bridge and Airthie Road here. The concept design proposals were for a protected cycle lane that ran along the entirety of Causewayhead Road. However, what we're bringing to you today is an alternative option of introducing improvements along Dunster Road. So in February last year, we brought the concept designs out to yourselves and to other key stakeholders, and we'll just show you those high level details here of a bidirectional cycleway to the west side of the road. So bidirectional cycleway being a cycleway that's 2 directions, it's mirroring the carriageway, so cyclists travelling north and south within the same lane. But for us to fit in this segregated cycleway, we were proposing that the carriageway would need to be reduced down to 6 metres. As part of our proposals, we were also looking at improving the roundabout alignment and the drainage issues around here. By changing the roundabout at this section, we were allowed to, it allowed us to continue the segregated cycleway along and connect to Airthie Road. Some of the key comments that came back throughout the concept design proposals were around the concerns on delivery vehicles and waste services and the impact that might have on congestion. And how do you access your driveways? There's concerns from those that currently cycle that there will be cars parking in the lane anyway. You know, if you have a delivery vehicle or any works vehicles, how do we stop that happening? There's suggestions to use the other side of the road for the cycleway on the east side rather than the west. There is a demand for safe crossings, specifically at Craiglee and the Co-op, New Stevens, the Bakers, as well as around the roundabout itself. There was concerns that the 2-way cycleway would be dangerous because it's not wide enough to permit buses and lorries to pass each other, so narrowing down the carriageway to 6 metres, it did raise concerns, although our swept path analysis and the width 6 metres does allow those 2 vehicles to pass. There were concerns that it would be too narrow and perhaps be not safe. There are a few other suggestions that's stated that Dunster Road would be the better route. It's the existing NCN, it's a quiet route, it's more attractive, and currently Causewayhead is very polluted, and noise pollution is not an attractive place to cycle. So what we have done is come away with two options. Option one is similar to what it was in the concept design. It is still a bi-directional cycleway that goes along the west side of Causewayhead Road, and the second option is only going to Demyat Road and then going along Dunster Road, improving the streets, adding in traffic calming measures, and to improve cycling priority along the road there. We also developed a bus stop detail as well to ensure that pedestrians can transition and get on and off the bus safely. We've also added in 2 new safe crossings on Causewayhead Road, as was suggested in the concept design consultation. So we'll just move on to our proposals here. So they can be seen in much more detail online. You can view them online and you can download the copies, and you can see the entire extent of Causewayhead Road proposals. We're just going to focus on a couple of the smaller sections here. So just as it connects from Old Stirling Bridge, it goes under the railway underpass, and we are, as I suggested before, continuing along similar to the concept design as a segregated cycle route that runs the entirety of Causewayhead Road. The main difference here is that the carriageway is needing to be 6.5 metres as the absolute minimum, not the 6 metres we had anticipated in concept design. Also, we are restricted to occupying any of the land on the other side, as it's that runs alongside the railway. So this unfortunately provides us with some technical difficulties with fitting in the segregated cycleway within the design standards that we wish to achieve. We will touch on those constraints in a bit more detail later on. However, just for how it connects on to the roundabout, is still very similar. However, the roundabout layout would remain the same here. You'd have a slightly narrower cycleway in this section than at the concept design, as I said, for the extra space needed for the carriageway. In this section, you can see that we have added some safer crossings all around the roundabout. We've got crossings on either arm, as well as the safe crossing outside the bakery. Option 2, we will be looking at widening the footpaths on Causewayhead Road, so we can still take the carriageway space down to 6.5 metres and then reallocate that to the footway. So improving the space for walking, and rather than it being an active a segregated cycleway along Causewayhead Road. However, what we would be looking to do is improving Dunster Road to try and mitigate any additional through traffic that might be anticipated through an increase on traffic on Causewayhead. We don't want people to then use Dunster Road as a shortcut. So we're looking at doing some traffic calming measures, some potential build outs and give way scenarios to reduce speeds and reduce it as a convenient shortcut, whilst also providing cyclists priority through the junctions, and to ensure that they get the efficient route to Airtree Road. Some typical sections here as to what the street could look like. With a bi-directional cycleway, it would look something similar to this. Just to give it a bit of context, you'd have your footway and your cycleway alongside each other. You'd have a physical segregation between the two, and a contrast in colour, and then you'd have a 0.5 metre segregation between the cycleway and the carriageway here. So you can see this is the carriageway. It's been narrowed down to what it currently is. Another typical section of an idea of what we'd look to do for Dunster Road. We talked about these build outs. This is what one of those could look like. You'd use the build out as an opportunity to add some additional greenery to the area. You'd be creating these cycle bypasses to ensure that cyclists will still always get priority. However, it forces cars to have a give and take scenario, so reducing the speeds through this section. I'll just run through the pros and cons of both these options, Causewayhead and Dunster Road. So significant pros for Causewayhead revolve around the fact that it's reprioritising the road space to active travel modes along the main transport corridor, and it's visible, and it would be a great advert for promoting active travel, specifically in heavily congested times, peak times through the day. You'd much rather get on your bike if you can see them whizzing past you. So that's what we want to achieve. And it also allows another option for cycling, another cycle route away from Dunster Road. So if you've got other destinations along Causewayhead Road, any of the services along there, or residents visiting any of those houses, onwards to Alloa or the Wallace Monument even, it does provide a much more direct route to these. We will be also having the opportunity to transform Causewayhead roundabout into something that's more pleasant place to walk and cycle, and tackling the drainage issues that's currently there. The cons, though, are also quite significant. We did touch on the constraints, how things can pinch in quite a lot, taking away a lot of the space from the cycleway and the footway, as well as the carriageway, and we will talk about those in more detail. And it is more of a challenge to deliver a project of this scale on one of the main corridors in Stirling. And Dunster Road, however, it is a more pleasant route to travel as the existing NCN just now. We know it is quite a popular route for those that currently cycle. And there are less constraints to overcome if this was the option that we proceeded with, and also less interaction with driveways. You're taking people away from the noise and the vehicle pollution. However, we will be leaving Causewayhead Road without any safe cycle infrastructure. We're just going to now focus on the constraints that we spoke about, which we need to be able to detail out as part of the design, regardless of whether we go with option 1 or 2, Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road, as this is a section that's just south of Dunster Road. It's a short section, it's only about 30 metres. However, we are seriously constrained with space here. As I touched on, we can't get any space from the other side of the road due to the land owned by Network Rail. As such, we're really pushed down to below our sort of design standards for this short section. Just to put it into context, the cycleway would be down to 2 metres here, with a ½ metre segregation, and our sort of absolute minimum normally would be 2.5, 3 metres. 3 metres would be the ideal. The footway down to 1.6 metres, we'd be looking at 1.8 absolute minimum in normal circumstances, with 2 metres being our preferred at the minimum. And the carriageway, as I touched on previously, 6 metres is what we're having to reduce it down to for this short section, even though it's 6.5 is our minimum. So we're really tied to what we can do in this section. So we are proposing this as an option where we do continue it as segregated, with physical segregation between pedestrians and cyclists, where you're sort of pushing everyone into this this pinch point. The other option we would like to propose is having this as a shared use path. So rather than having physical segregation between pedestrians and cyclists, you could look at having no physical segregation or lining or something much lighter interventions. However, it would be a shared use path, about 4 metres at the narrowest point. So the question and answers will be ongoing. You can submit your own questions through the Teams chat throughout this presentation, but just some questions to trigger, and these are also on the website. So which of these 2 routes do you think needs most improvements, and what improvements do you think they need to be? Could it be reducing the speed limit, widening the footpaths, providing better cycling infrastructure, safer crossings or more crossings, or do we need to see cycle priority at junctions? Another question we'd like you to think about is currently, are you more likely to use Dunster Road or Causewayhead Road if you are heading north of Stirling by foot, wheel or bike? And if we do any of these proposals to Causewayhead or Dunster, do you think that will change what you currently do? So if you currently go along Dunster Road because Causewayhead is not pleasant, it's not safe, are you more likely to then still go along Causewayhead Road with those changes, or would you maintain your route as Dunster Road? And vice versa, if you currently don't cycle at all or don't walk on these routes, if we were to improve Dunster Road or Causewayhead, would that change? And finally, just touching on that last question there, when we were the last section, sorry, about the pinch points here, would it be your preference to see this as a narrowed footway, cycleway and carriageway that we spoke about, the constraints there, or would you rather see it to be a shared use path for this short section? I'm just going to end the presentation there and go to the questions and answers and read out any that we've got. So I've got a question here. I know that with the current restrictions it is difficult, but I think you need to make a concerted effort to consult with the pupils of Wallace High. They are prolific users of Causewayhead Road. When the co-op was at Causewayhead roundabout, many of them went there. With the co-op now moved along to Causewayhead Road, it is used by pupils. Therefore, however pleasant Dunster Road may be, there are many who will continue along Causewayhead Road. So we are in contact with Wallace High representatives, and this we will definitely look to share these proposals with the school community and to allow them to comment on the designs. So I suppose is the question around walking or cycling, or is it both? So when we were looking at Causewayhead improvements, if we were to go Dunster Road, we'd still be looking to widen the footpaths. So that would still be a benefit for those that are walking from Wallace High. However, if it's cycling, then absolutely, and we will bring those along on our consultation journey. So when is the new road from Kildene to University entrance via new bridge over river and railway at Cornton due to be built? Will that new road reduce traffic levels on Causewayhead Road, making it easier to implement safe walking and cycle route? So the modelling suggests that this proposed project could reduce traffic in the Causewayhead and Bridge of Allen areas, as well as the wider city. It would create opportunities for active travel and public transport. At this stage, there is no timescales to take this forward. However, it is identified within our current local development and local transport strategy. So we've got about 5 minutes left for more questions to come in, and we'll run through those, and then we'll end the presentation and Q&A session at 6 o'clock. However, the plans are online, so you have the full link proposals there, and you can provide us feedback. You can share the proposals around your social media as well, and spread the word. Okay, we've got another question in here. I thought pedestrians and people with disabilities hate sharing a pavement with cyclists. Surprised that this is proposed. So designs and placemaking is nuanced. There is no one size fits all approach. We are committed to working with the Stirling Area Local Access Panel, and all aspects of the project will be subject to an EQIA, a Qualities Impact Assessment. We will make sure that we make reasonable adjustments in our design process and deliver places and spaces for people of all abilities. We've got a couple more questions coming in here. How are the community of Causewayhead being included and consulted currently? Why are there no postal notifications? So postal information has been sent out. We believe this has been held up and for that please accept our apologies, but do look out for it coming through your door. So there is a postal questionnaire that will be out this week, and it was Wednesday at the latest we've been notified, so we do apologise it wasn't out in advance of this event. However, the postal survey does have specific questions relating to Causewayhead, so the two options we've just discussed, as well as the pinch point here. So that's going out to all the residents along the route, as well as obviously Causewayhead community. We've got, why have you not allowed enough time for the questions and answer sessions? So we do apologise if there's not been enough time. However, if you have any further comments, then please feel free to go to the website to comment on the designs, or you can email us. So we have sent you the link there. The session has been ongoing since 4 o'clock, 4 till 6. This was the 4th presentation. I've done it within that time. So each presentation was about 20 minutes with a 10-minute Q&A session. But yes, please go online, ask further questions on there or submit your feedback, and you can send us more specific questions through our email account. Okay, I think we will finish up there. Thank you everybody who's still in attendance for popping on and for submitting your questions. The presentation slides will be uploaded onto the website as well, and all this feedback that we've received through the Q&A session will be collated and published in due course.